Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Inside the Huddle, presented by Countryside Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Jackson. I'm your host, Chad Feltman, with K13 Media, joined as always inside the Huddle on game days by the head coach of the Pike County Pirates. Coach Stephen Holmes is in the middle with us here today. And, boy, I don't know about all of you guys, but the broadcast got a lot classier. Our average for good looks have gone up tremendously for today because Chris Childress is not with us this week. Instead, ladies and gentlemen, the voice of the Pike County Pirates, Michael Moody, is joining us here today. Thank you for being here, man. It has brought our broadcast so much to a higher level. So
I know Chris hates not to be here, but he's got a family wedding up in North Georgia, so I'm honored to fill in for tonight. It's going to be a blast.
Coach, we talked last week, anybody who schedules a wedding on a Saturday night during college football season, we don't feel sorry for them. So for Chris's family in North Georgia, and not just any Saturday night, but tomorrow night is Georgia and Alabama, and the wedding is the same time as the game. Chris Childress, no mercy from us at all. Not going to happen. We're glad to have Coach here with us, though, on this Friday morning. We are getting ready for another big game here tonight. Got a big road trip as we are heading to Callaway Stadium to take on the Callaway Cavaliers in our first region game of the season. And, Coach, before we talk about Callaway here tonight, I think we're all still buzzing over last Friday night here at the Boneyard, really the last two Friday nights. But, man, this defense, 2 weeks in a row, and last week to shut down a Mountain Zion team who was undefeated. I know we were excited about to jump off the press box. I can't imagine what it was like in this locker room, in that huddle, and with your coaches and players.
It was electric. Our coaches and players had a great week of prep. Just really excited the way they play. The core of that defense, those guys do a great job. Jalen Hudson, Max McBrayer, Gray Cook, Manny Lawrence, Ethan Luna, those guys are all right there in the middle of that defense, and they do a great job of getting ready. And, and all that prep shows on Friday night.
For the second straight game, our player of the game has come from that defense, especially the defensive line. Last week, it was Godfrey Mahone. This past Friday night against Mountain Zion, it was Jalen Hudson. So, Coach, he had a great game. I counted 3 sacks in the game for Jalen. Talk to us a little bit about number 69, how special he's been to this team this year.
Oh, just a great kid. When we first got on campus here, it was basketball season, so we went to basketball games to feed our kids, support our team, and we didn't really know our kids good, but he was one of our kids, our basketball players that we circled. We said, we saw his toughness, it's nasty on the basketball court, so we got to have him part of our program, build around him. He's one of the kids we can build around, and he worked really hard this summer. Coach Rowland also got hired to be our head basketball coach. He's our defense coordinator, and Jalen went to basketball in afternoons in June. And first summer, our kids have done that, and it kicked their butt pretty good, from a physical standpoint, in the month of June. But all of that is really paying off now, and they see that, and they're feeding off of that, and I really am excited for them and proud of them.
Well, when you come to the Boneyard on a Friday night here at Pike County High School, the voice you hear over the speakers is Michael Moody. And, Michael, I know we heard you last week calling out Hudson's name a lot, but that defense alone, man, for the past 2 games, I know you've done quite a job calling those defensive guys the last 2 weeks.
All night long, and I was telling Coach that this defense actually makes it hard for my spotters. Eric McElroy, who does a great job, and Miss Chanda Steele on my right does an amazing job. And they have a tough time because there's so many red Pirate jerseys swarming to the football. And obviously that's coaching, that's a mentality. But could you speak to that, just how this defense – There seems to be 7, 8, 9 guys around the football all the time.
And Coach Rowland preaches that to our kids. Our 11 have to be better than their 1, and our kids have really bought into that since day 1 last year when we got on campus. And they understand there comes a lot of sacrifice and commitment into building up to that. You can't just talk about it; you got to do it. And but our 11 have to be better than their 1. They believe it. They believe it to their very core. And, and it shows on the field on Friday night. We got another big task ahead of us tonight.
Don't want to just talk about the defense only last week, as good as they were, but our offense also set the tone. In the first 6 minutes of the first quarter, we had 2 touchdowns. So how important was that to break out and jump out early in that game?
Absolutely. You always look for explosive plays, explosive opportunities, and Coach Duff has done a great job of that. Our sophomore quarterbacks continue to improve, and our offensive line, and then Samaje Smith is really having an outstanding senior year, running the football and leading our offense, and then our receiver core. They've worked really hard. Coach Chapman's done a great job with those guys, and running our offense. Execution has improved every week. We got to keep on. We're not where we need to be, but we got to keep improving.
Well, we got to improve because as fun as the last 2 weeks have been, gentlemen, tonight we have a real test, and that is taking on the Cavaliers of Callaway High School. We are going to be hitting the road, heading to Callaway Stadium in LaGrange tonight for a 7:30 kickoff, and I don't even know where to start with this team. They won their last game 50-0 against Redan last Thursday night. They're 3-2 on the season, but in their last 3 games, they have been almost untouchable on the defensive side. I mean, just giving up 13 points in 3 games while almost scoring 120-something points. They are rolling and playing some good football at the right time.
They sure are. They they have they have 95% of their starters back from last year's team.
Just 95.
95%.
That's it.
They've lost a few players, but they have everybody back. They got a great coach staff. Coach Wiggins does a great job. Coach Casey Smith, the defensive coordinator, we coach with him at Sandy Creek.
Okay.
He's a great friend of ours. Knows a lot of football, does a great job, works really hard at it, and it shows through the way the defense is playing. They feature a great defensive front, led by their middle linebackers, Zay Anderson, and 3 technique, Tyrone Fitton, 2 really great players with a ton of Division I offers already, and then that defensive backfield they have is awesome as well. Offensively, their coaches do a great job as well. Coach Giddens, their offensive coordinator, is a great play caller. They're all really well coached on the offensive line. Their quarterback's a returner. He's probably one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the region.
Okay.
Blake Harrington, you'll see him running and throw it tonight. And they present a lot of things that, cause surprise matchup-wise, and we're going to do a great job tonight executing.
I was doing some prep earlier this week, and I did not realize that this was the 21st year Coach Wiggins has been at Callaway. I remember working with Coach Wiggins his first year, 2005, when I was living in LaGrange, right out of high school into college, and here we are 21 years later, and I'm not trying to brag on our visiting coach for tonight, but 21 years, a state title, 11 region titles, and they've made the playoffs for 20 consecutive seasons.
He is.
Wow. They've done pretty well in Callaway.
He has set a great example too, just as a head coach.
Yeah.
He started promoting his football program before it was popular to promote your football program, and that was one thing he brought to Callaway. And because they formed from Hogansville High School,
Yep.
so it was it hadn't been around long, and but he started promoting his program, and then that attracted coaches and improved the mindset of his players, and they were able to keep those kids there in the community playing for them and not going to a neighboring community to play football. And their success has showed. He's had a lot of great coaches come through there and going to be head coaches, and he's had a lot of great players, and they've went on to the NFL, and it's because of his leadership. And he has set a really good example for people my age on the right way to do things, and just really proud to say that I know him.
This is another
That's
name you're probably going to know when I throw it at you, but when Coach Wiggins at Callaway took over in 2005, that was kind of the shift in Troup County, Georgia, because for the 30, 40 years before that, it was all about LaGrange High School. LaGrange, and Coach Steve Pardue's last year at LaGrange kind of transitioned into Coach Wiggins at Callaway, and since then, they've kind of been the juggernauts down in Troup County.
They have, in Pike County, we have a luxury. We have one school in our county, and people, you say that, people that live here, they don't really understand it because we're kind of spoiled by that. But if you go to a county where there's 3 schools and there's 3 communities and all of them are successful, and then if you live out in between and you got a decision on where you want to go take your kid to play high school football, so those guys are all competing, not only on the field but also for those middle school kids and those type deal, and and the competition makes us stronger, so they've done all 3 of those guys have done a good job. But you're right about the transition. I talked to Coach Wiggins about that, how he's able to do it, and the main thing was just keeping those kids there in Hogansville playing football for Callaway. And that was one of the key ingredients, and they've done a great job of that.
Michael, that's why they've made the playoffs for 20 straight years.
Yeah, and Coach, I've seen you, speaking of community, really invest in that. We've seen the rec department using the facilities at the Boneyard all this week. And could you just speak to investing in those future generations and the payoffs and just what it means to be a community program?
I can tell you that real quick. I stole his sheet right here for the 7U Pirate game prep for Saturday.
That's
let me
incredible.
Give you this back, by the way.
Well, first of all, our feeder programs are they're I got to say it about that. They're our most important coaches in the state of Georgia. The number one goal of any feeder program is to make sure the kids want to play again next year.
Yeah.
And to do that, you got to do a great job coaching them, because every kid wants to be successful and they want to know and they want to be engaged. And our rec coach done a great job. But you have to, when when they asked me to be the head football coach of the football program here, and I assured them in the interview process that I was a program coach and not a team coach. And we've all had good players on our teams before, and been real fortunate to coach really great players talent wise. But you got to build a program, that way. Every year there's those relationships are built, amongst your coaches and your players, because the biggest thing nowadays with kids is connections. You got to be able to connect with each other. The more of a connection, the more relationship you have with them, the harder they're going to play, the more they're going to listen, the more their families are going to invest. And two, it's not just being as a football player. When our kids leave our program, we want them to be able to take something with us.
Right.
So, I'm fortunate enough. I'm around Justin Osteen and Blake Parrott every day for, about 6 hours a day, and those two guys are winners. And I got another saying.
We're going to hear about that from Blake now.
Well,
it's over with.
Success breeds success.
Oh, boy.
Success breeds success.
We love you, Blake.
And
we did take 2 out of 3 from Callaway in baseball this
there
year.
you go. That's right. That's right. So but success breeds success,
Yeah.
and those guys have, I get to absorb everything that they talk about, and that they're only not just talk about that they're about investing in the community and the kids, and then when your kids leave, they take something with them. But our feeder programs are the most important thing, because the biggest thing is you got to think of it in the long run. Our freshman class is going to be a junior class one day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you want the sophomore and freshman class behind them to be good. And I don't mean just from an athletic standpoint. I mean you want them to be good people, good students, good character kids, show some perseverance and resilience, know the meaning of mental toughness, and those things. And the earlier we can get them into our program, the more we feel like we can have a bigger impact. We have a saying, we talk about this all the time. We take a kid in kindergarten and see them all the way through 12 years of high school. And we firmly believe we do that. The other luxury we have here at Pike County, we have one campus, whereas our primary and elementary school are right here within a stone's throw of each other. So we have to take full advantage of that. You have to maximize, and you got to find the edge of what you have. If you're at Callaway, you're sitting there competing with LaGrange and Troup County for players, and on the field as well. There's a lot in bragging rights. That's a lot of fighting you're doing just amongst yourselves, or competing, I should say. Well, here the biggest thing is we don't have to fight those battles, so we got our hands on them. So we're able to fully invest in our players, and we firmly believe we do that all the way to our core.
Well, let's talk about that feeder program. Let's talk about the youth, because when we're done tonight in LaGrange, these two gentlemen right here are right back at it at the Boneyard Saturday morning. And, Michael, you and Coach Holmes got a big day with those young Pirates
First
tomorrow.
game, 8:30.
That's right. And they always play when the grass is wet. That's what. And they are great. Our 6U and 7U team. I tell you what, I have been blown away by our rec football coaches this year. We're able to host 4 rec clinics, because of scheduling.
Well, that's why we're in here tonight in the locker room. If you've noticed, we are in the players' locker room and out of the indoor facility, because our rec coaches are practicing in that indoor facility.
Yeah, we I communicate with those guys just like I communicate with the coaches on our staff. Every they are part of our football program, so I communicate with those guys every Sunday. Let them know our schedule. They ask me, if I'm here for any resources, questions, and I learn a lot from them. Our 10U coaches out there, I've learned so much about coaching just watching those guys, and they're a very luxury to have around. I mean, I can't tell you how much we feed off of those guys.
We got Coach Stephen Holmes here with us. It's one-on-one inside the huddle, presented by Countryside Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Jackson. And when we wrap up here real quick, I know we're going into region play tonight, and I don't want to spend an hour on this, but we've got 5 region games. I want you to kind of give us a breakdown of what you're expecting from the region teams tonight with Morgan County, Callaway, Jackson, Rutland, Westside, Macon. Where do you think we stand based on last year, based on what's coming back, and based on what you've seen from your program this season?
Well, one of the things we do after the season's over with, we look at everybody's losing, and we spend about a day on that, we put that in our game plan folders for next year before we go into our winter program. So everybody in our region has everybody back. Of course, Westside lost a really great running back, but they'll reload there. Morgan County has Morgan, Callaway has everybody back. Rutland's hired a new offensive coordinator, head coach there. He's a great guy, great person, and they've retooled their offense there, so they're going to be really explosive on offense. Jackson has retooled their offense as well. They've hired a new offensive coordinator. and new defensive coordinator. So they're going to be a great challenge for us as well. And the region's going to be highly competitive. AA this year, I believe, is loaded. You know, I don't look at the rankings much, but I saw the preseason top 10, and you know, fortunately there were 12 teams that belonged in there, and only 10 of them were on the paper. But AA football this year is absolutely loaded. So it's going to be a great run down to the finish, and I'm just excited that we remind our kids every day that's what you signed up for. When you signed up to play football at Pike County, you signed up to play like a champion, practice like a champion, prepare like a champion, and play champions. You know, and that's what we want to. You know, we preach that to them on a daily basis. You know, because when you're going out there practicing against that scout team guy, you're not practicing against a sophomore or a junior, maybe a backup at your position. You got to practice like he's the best guy in the state of Georgia at that position every day, because we spend 4 days on the practice field. We're going to spend 1 day on the game field, so we're not going to waste those 4 days that we're on that practice field. And it goes into our preparation. You know, we feed our kids that. They believe it. Coach Rowland, you know, our 11 has to be better than their 1. You know, sometimes those guys have, you know, 5 or 6 good players on offense, so they're ones whoever's touching the football. So our 11 has to be better than that 1.
Well, tonight, Callaway and Pike County. By the way, Callaway 6-1 all time against the Pirates. Coach Wiggins, the head coach of Callaway, he's never lost to Pike County. So give me that one big thing tonight that can change that. What is the one piece that if you think we contain tonight or take care of, we can send Coach Wiggins his first loss against Pike County?
The one thing we got to execute up front on offense. If we can execute up front offensively, that'll give us a chance to be successful. And that's one thing we've preached to our offensive linemen all week. You know, those guys have had a great week of preparation. It's going to be a big challenge for us. You know, everybody's got a plan to get punched in the mouth. And it's going to be a heavyweight bout. We got to go out there and, you know, they're going to land some blows, and we're going to land some blows. And, you know, we just got to make sure we're standing at the end to get the game to the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter.
Well, Callaway Stadium holds right at 10,000 fans. We hope that we have quite a few of our fans there with us this evening. Again, 7:30 kickoff for Pike County and Callaway. All right, Coach, before we let you go, it is once again time for our weekly college football fantasy picks. And I promise you, by the next time we do one of these interviews, I'm going to have everything tallied up. Michael, you and I will give our picks tonight in the pregame show. You're going to be representing Chris Childress tonight, so hopefully you go 0-5.
Correct. Okay? My record falls on him.
We're going to sabotage Michael's picks here tonight. But, Coach, let's wrap up our interview here with your picks for this week, college football for Saturday. Game number 1, this is surprisingly the game where College Game Day is going to be at tomorrow. Oregon and Penn State. Who do you like in that one?
That's a good one.
At Penn State, I believe, is where College Game Day is tomorrow. So Oregon and Penn State.
This is supposed to be Penn State's year, so I'm going to go with Penn State.
Penn State. All right. The big one tomorrow for all of us, Georgia and Bama. Saturday night at 7:30 on ABC in Athens.
I got to go with Georgia on that.
That's right.
Go Dogs. All right. Another good one, LSU and Ole Miss tomorrow. Who do you like?
Ole Miss.
Wow. Okay.
Lane train. I like it.
Going with Ole Miss. Even Eric, our producer, cocked his head sideways over there. So a couple of more will stay in the SEC. Auburn takes on Texas A&M.
Oh, that's a tough one. Man, I got to go with Texas A&M.
Final pick. I'm calling this my upset special of the week, as much as I hate to do it because I want these guys to ride all year. But a 12 o'clock game in North Carolina, Georgia Tech at Wake Forest tomorrow.
Ooh, I got to go with Tech on that one. I'm cheering for them, too.
I am, too. I am, too. But we know Tech can sometimes be Tech.
Brent Key's doing a great job.
Yes, he is. And Haynes King has been incredible to watch this season. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know.
And to help my Auburn fans, I'm picking Texas A&M because last week I picked Auburn, and so this week.
Well, that's what I've done with Florida every game this year.
I'm going to pick opposite.
I think Auburn comes out salty after being hosed. I think they're ready for
I'm not going to
A&M.
say I hope so, but that's why I'm picking the other team. So
all right, well, there you have it. Those are Coach's picks for the week. Again, tonight I'll give you my picks. Michael will give you his, and Eric Edmondson, our producer, will give you our picks for college football Saturday. But we hope you can, first of all, join us tonight in LaGrange. It's not that long of a drive. Come on out Highway 109. You'll come right into LaGrange, Georgia. We're going to be in downtown LaGrange at Callaway Stadium. Again, the place holds right at 10,000 people. So you're going to have plenty of room to join us. Rain or shine, we're going to be there. So we hope you'll come and join us as well. But if you can't, be sure to join us on the broadcast tonight. Kickoff is at 7:30. Our coverage will begin at 7 p.m. And again, my special guest co-host tonight, filling in for Chris Childress, the voice of the Pirates, Michael Moody. If we win tonight at Callaway and we give Coach Wiggins his first loss, we might just keep Michael the rest of the year.
There you go.
Yeah, Chris is on the hot seat starting now. Yeah,
That's right. Chris, by the way, again, have fun at your wedding tomorrow night in North Georgia during college football season. Goodness gracious.
guilty. Georgia versus Tennessee in 2003. That was my wedding night, and I can't say much, but Georgia did win that night.
Goodness gracious. I guess I need to admit, too, I got married in October in 2011. But mine was at least on a Saturday afternoon. It wasn't Saturday night college football. So thank you all for joining us. Thanks again, as always, to Coach Stephen Holmes for joining us for Inside the Huddle. Get out here tomorrow. The rec teams are going to be playing at the Boneyard. Coach can also give you all the details on the big meat fundraiser going on. You get a full cow and a freezer. The cow and the freezer. See Coach Holmes, see any of the players while you're out at the Boneyard tomorrow during rec day. And come have a good time with the Pirates. And again, we hope to see you tonight in LaGrange, Pike County, taking on the Callaway Cavaliers at 7:30. We'll talk to you later on tonight. Thanks again for joining us one more time for Inside the Huddle, presented by Countryside Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.